cannot tell you how many emails, comments, texts, phone calls, you name it, that I've gotten today or even this week alone about people that tell me they have a bad relationship with money and it is stopping them from starting their RV life or stopping their RV life and digital nomad dreams. If you feel like you have a bad relationship with money or that your finances are holding you back from becoming a digital nomad and starting your RV life, then this video is for you. I'm breaking down and telling you my 3 simple steps you need to take to get your finances in order so that you can become an RVing digital nomad and live that dream life on the road, working remotely, and so you never have to worry about running out of money or going broke or if you can afford RV life again. So if you said, oh, I need to make more money, that's going to be the solution. I can tell you making more money isn't always the solution. You might need to know where your money is going in order to fix the problem. Before you worry about making more money, make sure that you've sat down and done these things, which is creating a budget. In this video, I'm giving you 3 steps to actually do that. This is not a video about my digital nomad or RV living expenses or cost, anything to do with that, budget, expenses, cost, because I've made tons of videos about that. This is how I would create a budget even before I started RV living, but even after I've started RV living. I've taken all those fun videos and put them in an amazing playlist that you can watch after this video is over. In case you're wondering who I am and how I know what I'm talking about and you don't know my story, I'm Blogging Brainy. I'm an ex-corporate Kool-Aid drinker. I actually quit my job in finance from Bank of America Merrill Lynch, started a business, and then ended up in an RV. Like I said, if you don't know my story, that's how I'm actually teaching you here in my RV about budget and finance and all that. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified each and every time I publish if you can relate to me. I am teaching others how to do the same thing over at Arversity. I break this down for you and I've actually showed this strategy to some students. They have paid off over $20,000 in debt. They have, you can say, either saved hundreds of dollars a month or made hundreds of dollars a month after they've gone through these steps. It depends on how you look at it. The glass half full or the glass half empty perspective. So many things that can come from this. I've even had people take their credit scores up from sitting down and looking at this. Almost 100 points, 99 points in 5 months. There's money that you may not know that you're spending. Even if you don't have a phone, a computer, or anything else, which you should if you're a digital nomad, which I went through in one of my prior videos about getting set up and all your essentials and how to stay organized, which you can watch after this video is over. You need to know, here's how much money I have going in, here's how much money I have going out, and you can put this on paper. So you don't have to have a computer. I'm breaking this down like as simple as I can. So think about like budget basics. So let's dive into the 3 steps that you want to take, and you might want to get a pen and paper if you don't already have one so that you can follow along. First thing that I would do if I was trying to create my budget, write down my expenses. I want to go through and I want to write down all of my expenses that I have incurred. The best way that I've found to do this is to go through your bank statements, online transactions, all of your daily, monthly, annual living expenses you want to put on here. Think about all of the expenses that you might have. It could be your cable and Wi-Fi, your car payment, it could be your insurance payment, it can be your house payment, it could be your RV payment whenever you get your RV. All of your expenses that you have, if you look at all your statements, all your transactions, your bank, your credit cards, and say like, okay, this is what I'm spending my money on, this is what you're going to write down and put here. So if you're going to Target or Walmart or Dollar General, it needs to go on here. And you don't want to duplicate. So like if you're putting something on, say like a credit card, you want to break down and say, look, this is how much money is going towards living expenses versus bills and utilities and things like that. You want to put all of your expenses down on paper. Those are both your needs and your wants that you're spending money on. You have to figure out like where your money's going in order to find a way to fix where it's going. For instance, one of my clients was spending money on a credit card, and then they were spending money at like the Dollar General and Walmart and just buying like all their little necessities. But when we put it down on paper, they were spending like $500 a month on random stuff. And I was just like, do you really need all those things? And even though they're discount stores, they're not always the best deal. Wants versus needs is key, and then writing everything down. You're going to write down all of your expenses. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing that you're going to want to do is write down your income. You need to know how much money you have coming in to your bank account and where it's coming from. So you need to take a second to write down all your income streams and think about where your money's coming from. So like your paycheck, it could be a disability check, it could be a pension check, and then you want to add up your assets. So like your checking account, savings account, money that you have like already sitting around, investment account, 401k. How much money do you already have sitting in savings and investment account versus like how much money do you have coming in? So you want to take your income plus your savings, because income is essentially something that's productively happening. Your savings and investments are kind of like stagnant money. What you're trying to figure out is, okay, all your expenses, and also in your expenses, you want to be making sure that you're writing down, not like, oh, I owe $5,000 on a charge card or whatever. I'm going to show you where to put that here in just a second, but what's your minimum payment on that charge card, or minimum payment on your student loans, minimum payment on your electric bill, which your electric bill is probably your full bill. I'm going to show you a little bit more of that breakdown. So all your expenses, like today, everything that you have to pay for, and then all of your income plus your savings, you want to have all of that. Add up your expenses, add up your income and savings. Also, when you're thinking about income, I want you to think about any assets that you might have, your car, your house, your belongings. When you think about when they say like what a celebrity's worth, it's normally all of their assets. Oh, they own this house in New York and they have another house over here in California. If you added those things up plus their cars and the amount of money you think that they're making from like these movies or whatever, what are they worth? That's not really like how much money they have in their bank account. So when they say like what a celebrity's worth or what a person's worth, it's not really that per se. Your assets are also part of like your income and savings. And when I think about like if I had to liquidate my life right now, what do I own? Like I could sell my car. My car's paid off, but like even if you owed on your car, you might still have a little equity in it. So that's why I say like think of those things. So this is like putting yourself on paper, sort of like a financial plan, but this is what I'm worth on paper, where my money's coming in and going. The third thing that you want to do to write down your credit and debt, anything that shows up on your credit reports. But you want to go through your credit card statements. Think about also student loans, car loans, personal loans. So looking at your credit report is a really good way to find this. If you pull up your credit report, I tell all of my students to go to Experian.com and also creditkarma.com. That way you know your Experian credit score and report and what they're all reporting about you. On Credit Karma, you know your TransUnion and Equifax credit reports. So you want to see what's all out there under your name, and if they're saying like, oh, you didn't make payments on certain things, or if your credit score is good, or it could be a bad credit score, but it could be because you don't have any credit. But you want to know if there's something out there in your name, especially if you're going to be like buying an RV or applying for a credit card and you do need credit. Finance is your friend, cash is king. Keep that in mind. Check your credit card statements, look at your credit reports. Then you'll want to track things like your total balance. So when I'm thinking about credit cards in step 3, I want to make sure that I write down things like the total balance is the first things. The total balance like owed on the credit card or on the loan. And then the other thing that I want is to know my minimum payment. What's the minimum that I actually have to pay on this credit card or loan each month? And this one is what's really important for what you want to put over on your expenses report. So that minimum payment is what you need to think about when you're thinking about your expenses. Think about what I owe minimum payment. So if everything stopped today, what money am I spending, or do I have to spend? So even if I don't spend any more money, like what's going on? For your credit, total balance, minimum payment, due date, the date that the payment is due. So like if your payment's due on the 1st or the 15th of the month, like I like to look, I put this in a spreadsheet, and I teach all my students to actually put this in a spreadsheet. I call this my budget spreadsheet. I give to all my students, and I'm like, hey, have you filled out your budget spreadsheet? So they show it to me, and I'm able to see like, oh, that's where your money's going, or figure out like how much runway money they have until they run out of money, or how long they can last if they lost their job tomorrow, or if they decided to just quit and embark on their RV journey. This is really the strategy I teach them. So I'm showing you how to do this on paper, not in a spreadsheet. So I'm trying to make this like as super simple as I can. So if you looked at your credit card statements and looked at your credit report, you should be able to find out your total balance, your minimum payments, your due date, the interest rate, and the amount of money going towards interest. So the percentage rate, and then the dollar amount of interest. So you want to know how much money is actually being paid on that bill that's going towards interest versus the principal. And that actually happens in the beginning of any kind of loan, that you're paying more towards interest than you are towards principal. And then over the life of the loan, you start to pay more towards principal as the interest goes down. So it's just kind of normal. And that's not necessarily true on every loan. I'm just saying it's not abnormal. I know some people say like, oh my god, I looked at my statement and I was paying so much towards interest, I just like quit making payments. I'm like, that's not how that works. Interest versus principal. And then you also want to know your available credit, your credit limit or available credit. This is all for credit and debt. You need to know total balance, minimum payment, due date, percentage, and amount going to interest, and then your credit limit and available limit. And you can get all of that from your statements, your credit reports. And so that's going to be for credit cards, personal loans, auto loans, student loans, things like that. And those minimum payments from over here, again, are going to go into your expenses category over here. So when you think about paying down those debts, that's not, you don't want to think about like, oh, I got all this to pay. You just want to think about like minimum payments. If something happened to me tomorrow, how do I just make the minimum payment? Speaking of which, always make the minimum payments on your credit cards and your loans and make them on time. Never not make payments on your bills or anything that can hurt you, because that's going to last for 7 years and you don't want that to happen. So that's why you should also be checking your credit reports and making sure that any of these things that might be showing up aren't showing up and how they're showing up. Once you do this and sit down, you're going to see like where all your money is coming from, where all of it is going. Plus you're going to be able to put together like a financial plan and a debt consolidation plan or a debt plan to get out of debt or to pay down your debt and achieve the RV life and digital nomad dreams that you've been seeking. Next, I kind of broke this down already, but you want to take your income and you want to subtract your expenses. So total up your income plus your savings and subtract your expenses from it. So this is a little bit backwards. Income minus expenses. Total income plus your savings minus expenses. So you have to see how much money it's going to cost you either for the next 6 months or the next year. I like to do monthly, you can do daily, however, but I would say start like monthly. But figure out, okay, this is how much it costs me to live every week or every day or 6 months. Figure that out. Okay, you're going to total these up. Take your income plus savings minus your expenses. Your total expenses, like I said, is you're going to be your minimum payments and bills required to live. And then income streams is going to be where I'm at now if everything stopped. If you lost your job tomorrow, where are you sitting? Or how much can you kind of expect? Like, oh, I make $1,000 a month plus I have $5,000 in savings. You want to know those things. Okay, so you're going to add all that up, subtract that, and then what you're going to figure out is how long will my income cover my expenses? How long can I live for? How long, if everything stopped today, am I going to be able to survive? Is it 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? And that means that you're not adding to your expenses and you're not adding to your income. So you want to figure that out. If you don't create any more expenses and you don't generate any more income, how much runway money do you actually have? And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to go back to the credit and debt that we were talking about here. You want to say, okay, let me look at these credit cards that I have and what I've all written out, or loans or balances, and let me see which ones have the highest interest rates, which one am I paying the most on, like minimum payments, total balances, like where am I at? And once you can see these out on paper, it's a lot easier to figure out like, okay, this is what I need to do to fix the problem. You want to say like, okay, can I save any money paying off a debt? And then is there anything that I can transfer to like a 0% credit card? Or if one credit card's 20% interest and another credit card's 12% interest, maybe you want to transfer your, if you can, you want to try to transfer your 20% to your 12%, depending on the fees and the interest and all that goes into it on a balance transfer. But you might could apply and get like a 0% credit card, and then you're paying 0%. It's like free money, say for 6 months or a year, and then everything you pay towards that debt actually goes towards the principal instead of any towards interest. That comes from having a good credit score, which comes from checking your credit report, which comes from writing all of these things down. and having a budget. This is the first thing that I do. This strategy, writing down credit and debt, which comes from like my financial planning background, as well as writing down your expenses and income, savings, and credit and debt. You have to have these things written down. So these are the 3 steps. First one being to write down all of your expenses. The second one being to write down all of your income streams. And the third one being to write down all of the credit and debt that you have. And then go through, like I talked about, and subtract that out and figure out like how long can I last? Where can I make changes? Which is what I'm able to do with this little financial planning background inside of our varsity and with my students, and show them like, hey, I see what you're doing over there, but maybe you want to tweak something here or there. I've had some of my students are actually getting on the road to RVing a year earlier than they even expected. Things can happen really fast or really slow. And another thing, credit and debt take a really long time to fix. It might take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for something to show on a credit report, or you to be able to track it, or changes that you're trying to make. So one of my students just got a credit card. They have credit, but they didn't really have credit. So they had bad credit, they just got a credit card, but it's taking over 30, 60 days to get credit in their name and to show up on their credit report. So if they want to go apply for an RV, a tiny house, or some type of, other living arrangement, anything, you have to have credit for that. Okay, so you'd be amazed how many people make good money and they have no idea where their money's going, where it's coming in from, or anything about it. And it is like magic when they sit down and write down all these things. Magic happens. I want to know your biggest takeaway. What is your biggest takeaway? Do you do this? Do you already have a budget? How do you keep up with this? If you don't have any kind of digital budget, this is how you can do a physical written budget. So before they had computers, you actually had to do this. I remember my very first accounting job, they were like, oh, you need to learn how to do all this on paper before you do it on the computer. I like to work smarter, not harder. Getting your finances in order is only like one part of the whole digital nomad RV living thing. I would highly encourage you to learn my 4-step formula strategy, which I call my full-time RV living formula, in my free RV living masterclass, which I'll drop a link to below this video. And it'll teach you my entire strategy for minimizing your life, mobilizing your life, multiplying your income, creating multiple streams of income so you can get on the road way faster than you probably ever imagined. That's down below this video. But if you're like, hey Brandy, I really know that I want you, girl, in my life, I want you to be my coach, you can book a call with me below this video as well and learn all about our varsity and working with me. If we haven't officially met, make sure that you check out my story below this video and you can learn all about me and how I quit my job and ended up in an RV and became a digital nomad. If you like this video, hit the like button below. Don't forget to drop a comment below. Let me know your biggest takeaway, what you actually learned from this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified the next time that I publish a new video. I'll see you in the next one. Love you.